make an effort, is what I'm saying, to remember names. But I think I could make a little bit more of an effort to remember names, is what I'm saying. Yeah, I remember people's faces all the time, but I think it's nice to. So it's what I sought for, is what I'm saying. Yeah, it's what I sought for. Yeah, I think so too. Yeah, I think it makes a huge difference. Okay. Oh, still finding names. Is your name there? Do you have a name? Mm. I'll keep chatting while we get the last names. And here was I thinking I was going to fly over to Melbourne and get hot weather. Really? Perth has been unbelievable. We have had the best weather. Everywhere else in Australia is cooking, and we're mid-20s in Perth. It's been bliss. Hmm? We did have one hot day, but then everything sort of came down. So it's been perfect being able to be outside, and it's been wonderful. Okay, so I thought we'd start by going back and reviewing some of the things I did with you last time, just to sort of put it back a little bit into that model again. Huh? So let's see what we're going to do. So our big questions, and see how this goes into what you did with Jeff last time, you know, what you did with Susan, the segment before that, and what's been gradually continuing to unfold as the training goes on. So here's my famous little double helix. Yeah, and you can use the double helix to do lots of things. Last time we were talking about it in terms of one of the strands you could look at is organisation, and the other strand you could look at is learning. And how do these two interact? So we're going to use it today. One side is going to be me as a learner, and the other side is going to be me as a teacher. And how are these two constantly interacting with each other? That they both always inform. It doesn't always have to be that I have to learn it on myself and then it goes that way. One of the beauties to me of Feldenkrais is it's working with other people that often is really powerful in terms of what I'm learning. So it's always this two-way connection. So we're going to keep coming back to that again and again. What are the foundations that we're building on? The big themes we're going to be covering are ATM and FI, that continuum between the two, that they're always informing each other. We're going to continue with self-use, which was, I know, a really big thing that you were doing with Jeff, something you've always been doing, but that the importance of self-use in our learning and what we can bring to our teaching, that's the constant. That's our textbook, our self-use. Beginnings and endings of lessons we're going to be looking at quite a lot. How do I begin a lesson? How do I end a lesson? That's going to be more specifically in the context of FI, but we're going to be really interested in what have you learnt from teaching ATM or from doing your own ATM that has already informed a lot of that about what's useful to bring to the beginnings and endings of lessons. And we're going to be hitting a couple really specific learning ideas and organisational ideas as well, just to further clarify some of those. So the other one that's in there all the time within this is, and again, you might remember this, that we did it last time I was here, what is it powerful to learn? No? What have I learnt? How do I know I've learnt it? And the importance of a reflective process in there, for this to happen, and the quality. So not just the questions you ask, but the quality of the questions that you ask. Are they questions that actually take you somewhere, or are they questions that don't take you anywhere at all? They're simply a question, but you don't know what to do with it. Okay, so that's sort of the big theme for this. They're the big themes that we'll be covering for this next 3 weeks. Yeah? So I just wanted to also, I'm just going to keep that up, but also I asked you to read the first chapter, the first talk in Amherst 1981. Has everyone read it? Yeah? Could you read it again if you've only read it once? Yeah? And if you've already read it 4 times, read it again. It's incredibly rich, and I think there's a lot we can talk about in it. This is a quote from, because I also asked you to do that first ATM out of the book, the first of the bell hand movements. Now, did everyone do that? Yeah? Because I didn't realise until last night when I was reading your synopsis from last segment that Jeff finished with the bell hand. Yeah? So it'll be really interesting for you if you can remember what you got from the bell hand at the end of that segment. What then did you get out of doing it from Feldenkrais's perspective? Was there other information that you got, or were more questions asked, or your attention was moved in different ways from doing it from Feldenkrais? And then I'll teach it again this afternoon, and we'll see what is it when someone else gives their perspective of that lesson and what they want to direct your attention to. So this is just a quote out of the beginning of that first lesson, because it's about what we're doing as a teacher, really. No? So you will have to learn to feel what we can feel in ourselves. That means learn to know ourselves and to also at the same time learn to know other people. So it's never in isolation. This is never learning in an isolated thing about myself. It's always in relationship. Learn and find out how we can relate to these other people on a level which is difficult to appreciate because it's a question of sensation of feeling. In your hands, in your body, and in yourself. The kind of thing that the other person doesn't know to tell you. Because they can't sense it. They can't, it's not in their awareness or in their attention. So you have to find out what you understand from what he doesn't know how to tell you. I love that definition of both ATM and FI, that's what we're doing. Through our experience, through our understanding, through ourselves of what we're looking for, what we think gives us better functioning, better organisation, better able to move in the world, that we can then begin to observe through our eyes and through our hands this on someone else. So that's one of the big things that's going to be threading through these 3 weeks. And, you know, I just wanted to always say to you, it's a long time now since I graduated. When was it? 1990. Huh? So, last century. So I'll be really honest, and I'm sure Jeff would say the same thing, or any of us who have been doing this for a long time. It's difficult to go back and remember what our level of understanding was then. Do you know what I mean? Where we were in that process, what I felt like when I was in the 3rd year of my training. I remember I had a lot of questions, and I'd have aha movements, and then it'd all go to pot, and I would think I knew nothing, and would have to sort of start all over again. But that's the process. They're the approximations of learning. And I suppose what I'm really saying here is this self-use, this inquiry that he's talking about is something that just continues. It's not something that you've ever got. You've got where you are at that moment in time, and you've got your understanding of where you are in that moment of time. And that's where you have to teach from. That's where you work from, what it is that I can sense in myself at the moment, what it is that I understand in myself at the moment. And to be really happy with that and know there's a lot more that you're still going to get as your learning journey continues. So what I thought we'd start with is 2 questions for you. So my first question is, what was it that you went away from last segment that you thought was really interesting or you were curious about and that you really wanted to pursue? And how did you practice or play with that between last segment and this segment? And my second question is, what did you do between the segments that you felt you should do to further your learning? So the first one's what came out of maybe your interest or your curiosity, and the second one was one that you felt that you should do. And I don't mean should do, but that I think from what everyone's saying, that would have been good for me to practice. So just have a think about that, and then we'll get into some little groups and you can share. So just have a ponder first. Mm, mm, mm.